and welcome to today's video in which I'll be going through some of my most important unanswered questions from Crimes of Grindelwald. I believe that the movie is now out everywhere in all forms of media, so buy it, enjoy it, and if you find any answers to any of my questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'll be going from least important to most important. Number 20 is, which Scamander did Grindelwald say, "Do you think Dumbledore will mourn for you, Mr. Scamander?" Because it's not too important, but it could indicate there is some sort of history between Grindelwald and Theseus, if it was to Theseus. Number 19 is, what is the significance of the blue or black flames? In the script, the Protego Diabolica fire is described as being black, but in the movie we see it as being blue. Is there any significance to colours? Probably not. But if there is, that'd be very interesting. Number 18 is, was the boy who Dumbledore was teaching meant to be McLagan's granddad or something? Because in the script book, McLagan is spelled with an E, but I believe in the Harry Potter books, Cormac McLagan is spelled with an A at the end. So I'm not sure if the surname could have changed a little bit in the 70 years, but it is interesting. Number 17 is not too proper, I guess is the best way of putting it, but how come only Newt knows all of the tracing spells, like the gold dust ones for Tina? Because it seems like they'd have been used in Harry Potter for something, but they weren't. And I get that the movies need to add more spells, but this seems like something that's really useful. Number 16 is, were the Aurors and Spielman really planning to transport Grindelwald all the way back to Europe in a carriage? Because that seems like such a bad plan, and there are so many opportunities for Grindelwald to just pull some stunt and, you know, do what he ended up doing, but it just seems like a very flawed plan. Number 15 is, who is Tycho Dodonus? If he made one correct prophecy, surely he made a few more, and maybe he'd be mentioned in Harry Potter. Again, I get new characters need to be introduced, but it'd be interesting to know a little bit more about him at least. Number 14 is, what exactly was the dance sequence that was cut from the film? I think it is included in the bonus footage on the digital versions of the movie and the Blu-ray and DVD, but I don't think it's explained well enough, so I'd like to know a little bit more about what was going on there. Number 13 is, how common are the secret Wizarding World, little streets? Because we have now Place Cachée in Paris and Diagon Alley in London. Are they just in capital cities? Are they just in big cities? Are they in every city in town? Number 12 is a little bit picky, but Newt dries himself immediately after swimming with the Kelpie with a simple spell. But at the start of Goblet of Fire, all the students sit drowned during the feast. They're soaking wet. And none of the teachers know a spell that Newt Scamander knows 70 years ago. Like, I know that spells would probably fade out of usage, but surely one of them would remember, Newt Scamander taught me a drying spell and I can use it on all the students now because they're sat through a feast soaking wet. Number 11 is, what did Irma Dugard know? Because when Grimson kills her, he goes to Grindelwald and says she is dead or something along those lines, so he was sent to kill Irma. What did she know? What was she going to tell Ezra Miller's character? I guess we'll find out at some point, but it'd be interesting to know already. Number 10, we're getting into the more serious ones now. What is Nagini's full story? Does she turn bad over the course of the 5 Fantastic Beasts movies? Or is she just bad because Voldemort inhibited her body so much? Like, where is the disconnect between what we see in Crimes of Grindelwald and what we see in Deathly Hallows? 9 is, what are the limitations of portkeys? Because J.K. Rowling claims that Newt couldn't use a portkey to get from England to America because think of the beasts, but he did it for England to Paris. And I get that that's a smaller difference, but where is the cutoff point? Number 8 is, who did Lita say I love you to? And unless the Polish translators didn't get a memo or something, it's in the singular form. And it's not too important, but it could increase the conflict between Newt and Theseus, depending on who she did say it to. What did the tea do to Queenie? Because she isn't shown to drink it in the movie, but in the script book it says that the teapot is insistent on refilling the teacup, which means that she's already drunk some. Did it, make her legitimacy powers weaker, or did it make her more susceptible to Grindelwald? That's a very interesting thing to think about. Number 6 is, why don't the dates add up? The boat crash is meant to be in 1901, but it says that birth of infant on Credence's adoption certificate says 1904. and that's not quite possible. So there's obviously more going on with Ezra Miller's character than we thought still, but it's just, there's so much going on with that character that I'm getting quite lost. Number 5 is this book that Nicholas Flamel opens, The Order of the Phoenix, like an original version of it? Because they all seem to be powerful alchemists, I want to say. We're not too sure what Eulalie Hicks actually does, but there's Dumbledore in it and Nicholas Flamel. And there's a phoenix on the cover of the book, so maybe they're like an international group of wizards who are, you know, trying to protect the wizarding world and the muggle world. Number 4 is, how did Credence reassemble? At least he thinks he's Credence at that point, because surely it's difficult to reassemble a whole body after you're just a wisp, and he doesn't have any magical training. So I think there's a deleted scene of that, but it still must be very complex magic. Number 3 is, when did Grindelwald and Abernathy swap? Because surely they must have swapped at some point, obviously, but if they swapped before Grindelwald was in the carriage, then surely Grindelwald as Abernathy could have just run off somewhere and got into Europe without anyone even tracking him, but then maybe he needs Abernathy too much. So why does Grindelwald need Abernathy too much is the question, I guess. Number 2 is, when was the Blood Pact made? Because if it was made before their duel, they couldn't have duelled, and maybe it was just Aberforth dueling Grindelwald, and then Dumbledore was kind of trying to protect Grindelwald and firing some spells at Aberforth or something. But that doesn't make much sense either. And it can't have been made after the duel because they didn't like each other anymore at that point, because Ariana died and Dumbledore was like, oh no. And finally, the biggest question I think everyone has after watching Crimes of Grindelwald, whether it's your first Wizarding in the World movie or your 50 billionth, who is Ezra Miller actually playing? We won't find out for so long. Like, we've already known Ezra Miller as part of the Wizarding World for about 3.5 years or more, and we still don't know who he's actually playing. And it's just, I'm looking forward to the day that we finally find out. Thank you ever so much for watching this video. I really do hope that you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye. But in the script book it says that